Hi there, I hope that you enjoy painting this mandala as much as I did. Alrighty, let's begin. So we are going to start with the blue dotting tool, and we are going to use the large ballpoint first. The first color that we're going to use is number 5. So dip your tool in there. You want to get a generous amount of paint on your tool, and we're going to put that dot right on the center of our canvas. Go ahead and dip your tool again and add some more paint to that center dot because we want it nice and plump. Next, we're going to use our pink dotting tool, and we are using the small ballpoint on it. We're going to be using number 6 and doing little dots around our center dot. So take your time. You don't want to accidentally blend the little dots with the big center dot. Sometimes you can get 2 dots out of each dip, or just dip it each time, whatever you're comfortable with. And when your gap starts closing up and you aren't sure how many more dots you can fit, either add 2 at the end and space them out so that it looks even, or add 3 smaller dots. Now that you have all your dots, you can go back and add a tiny bit more paint to the ones that look a little smaller, just to even it out and keep it looking proportionate. Next, we're going to be using the bigger ballpoint of the pink tool and using number 3. And we're placing each dot on the lines that are provided. So the next dot you're going to place is on the bottom. Once you have that dot, we're going to do the right. Dip our tool again and do the left. And now we're going in between each of those dots. Again, trying to stay on the lines that are provided just to keep the mandala looking nice and even. The next tool we're using is the green one, and we are using the big ballpoint on it. So dip that ballpoint into number 4, and we're placing these dots directly above the ones that we just did. So again, make sure that you're staying as symmetrically on the lines that are provided, and just work your way around till that one's done. This time we're using the green tool again, so using the big ballpoint, dip that into number 1, and just as you did with the center dot, you're going to create a bigger dot with this tool above each of the ones that we just did. So stay on the lines again and work your way around. If you need help making the dot bigger, when you place your tool on the canvas, draw little teeny tiny circles with it on that dot, and that should help make it bigger. Next, we're going to do a technique called walking the dots, and that just means once you dip your tool into your paint and then place it on the canvas, you don't re-dip your tool into the paint for those sets of dots. So here we're going to use the big end of our pink dotting tool, and we're going to dip it in number 2. And the big end will be the top center dot of our flower petal. And then flip your tool over to get the small end, dip it into number 2, and then your first dot with this tool will be right in this gap. And then without dipping your tool back into the paint, we're just going to use what's on our tool to walk the dots. So as you can see, the first dot is big and it gradually gets smaller and smaller. It might also help you, because it helps me, to count the dots as you're walking them out. And so I did 5. I did the center top dot, and then with the other side of the dotting tool, the smaller end, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots, with the 5th one being the tiniest. And so when I do all the other dots, I usually count just to make sure that they're all pretty even. Next, we're going to do the exact same technique again, except we're using a slightly bigger tool. So we're using the yellow one this time, and we're using paint number 3. So again, the big side of the dotting tool will be your center top dot, and then the small end of your dotting tool will be for walking the dots. Alrighty, so I got my small one, and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to try to get 7 on the other side as well, just to keep it nice and even. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it's totally okay if you get 8 or if you get 6. Just try to keep them as even looking as you can. And this is why I do count, because it just helps to ensure that I am on the right track. Alright, so just keep going all the way around, walking the dots. Next, we're going to do a dot and drag technique, and we're going to use the big end of our blue dotting tool this time and paint number 4. So what you want to do is find your center right below the drawn circle and between the flower petals. You're going to place your tool onto the canvas, and instead of lifting your tool up to create a dot, you're going to drag your dot towards the center of your flower. Try to aim at going just between the petals so that you don't smear the dots that you already have on there. And if this happens to you where the paint runs out before it drags all the way to where you want it, just go over it with the small end of your dotting tool and it should be fine. So we're just going to do this all the way around. Next, we're doing the same technique, but we're using the small end of the blue dotting tool and paint number 6. So this time you want to place your dot that you will drag out just a little lower than you did your last one. And we're doing this on both sides, just like so, and all the way around. Next, we're using the small end of the yellow dotting tool, and we're doing the dot and drag technique again with paint number 5. Again, you want to be just starting a tiny bit lower than the last set that you did. So go ahead and do that all the way around. Next step, we're using the big end of the white dotting tool and paint number 3 and doing a row of dots on the outside of the drawn circle. So just one after another all the way around. When we near the end of our row, just guesstimate again how many dots you can fit in there, and either do 2 bigger ones spaced apart more or 3 smaller ones if you can squeeze them in. Next, we're using the big end of our green tool and paint number 2 to do dots again around the outer circle. You'll notice that it starts to get a little tight around the edge here, so just do your best to keep your dots uniform as you're on that edge. Next, we're going to use the big end of our green dotting tool and paint number 1, and we're doing circles around the ones that we just did. Because we only have corners of our canvas left, we want to place the first dot right on the center line that we have drawn, and then the other dots on either side, just to keep it symmetrical. I like to squeeze one more dot on each side there, just so there isn't a big gap on the canvas. I'm going to do that on all 4 corners. Next, we're going to use the big end of the green dotting tool and we're placing this dot right in the corner of our canvas. We want to fill the gap that's there, so we really need to build that paint up and then draw little circles to widen and make that little dot bigger. And really make sure that you're loading up that paint on your dotting tool so that you have lots to work with. For our last set of dots, we're using the bigger end of the blue dotting tool and paint number 4 to do dots on both sides of the big dot that we just did. So go ahead and do that all the way around. And it is complete. Make sure you set your canvas safe somewhere and let it dry for a good 24 hours. And I really hope that you enjoyed painting this mandala with me and will do it again. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Cheers!